going on.
Working from home. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, very good. So nice to hear you. मी ऐकलं आता 5 मिनिटापूर्वी. It was nice hearing you, the regression and all. Proud of you.
Thank
Very
you.
good.
Thank you, sir.
Please continue.
Yes, sir.
Yes, please
Thank you, sir.
continue.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so this is the folder. Once you get, so as I was you just need to right click, go to PyCharm, open all those things as community edition. So here I was talking about this app.py. So it's actually .py file. It's a Python program. So what will happen is the main logic of that particular project will be written in app.py file. That's what I am going to explain you. But what happens actually, it's not like that. When some client comes to us, right, and he or she is going to ask us to develop some project, so obviously it should be proper, right? So for example, it should have a front end, right? It should have some database, and then it should be able to everyone should be able to make use of that particular application or the final output of the project very easily, whether he may be a technical person or not, right? So that's what we have tried to do here, and we are going to pass the input through that particular HTML page. Okay, so how all those things are integrated, that's what I actually want to make you aware about, so that you people will also be able to make use of this kind of thing and will apply in your case to solve some problems, right? So first of all, let me go and directly run it. So it's just opening the files in PyCharm. As there are more number of files, that's why generally it takes some time. Okay, so first thing what you need to do is, once you have opened this particular folder in PyCharm, you need to do, first thing you need to set is environment. You need to set the environment in PyCharm. I will tell you how to set it, and it's also given in the PDF document which I am going to share. Okay, so what is environment actually? Environment is nothing but the things which you are actually going to make use of to implement that particular project, right? So maybe it's your PWD, present working directory. So in your directory you should have the input file, you should have all the files like .py file, and the files like proc file, requirement.txt file, and all these py files. Okay, so you should have all these things at one place. I will tell you the use of each and every file or folder which is mentioned there, right? Now how to set the environment? So you need to go to file, right? Go to file option, go to settings option, and here you need to set the project interpreter. So it is going to prompt one window like this, and here you will be able to see this one, project interpreter. So project interpreter you need to set. Now see this one, right? So in my case I have Anaconda installed, and in case of Anaconda, many of you might be knowing that it has by default Python already available there, right? And it makes use of the latest version of Python, that is Python 3. Okay, so once you click on this project interpreter, you need to click on this gearbox, this setting button. So I will just try to highlight that one here. So this one. Okay, so the steps which I am trying to tell you, these are the steps which you need to follow before executing the code, right? Once you open your code in PyCharm, these are the things which you need to follow. So click on that setting button, you will be able to see add and show all. Click on add. Okay, once you click on add, it is again going to prompt one window, and there we need to select which type of environment you want, right? So here see, here it is going to ask us whether you want virtual environment or Conda environment. In my case, as I am using Anaconda's Python, so I will select Conda environment. You could have selected this one also, no problem. So in my case, it's already created. See, this is the name of my environment. So in your case, you will not be able to see this kind of environment by default. So this OK button is active actually in your case, will be active in your case. So in my case, it's not, because I already created that, right? So that it will save time. So I will just close all those things. These are the steps which you need to follow to create the environment. Now what I will do, I will directly go and directly run this code. So just double click on this app.py, you will be able to see this particular code. I will go to this run button. Okay, this in the file, go to run and click on run. If everything is okay, if environment is set, you will be able to see these options, right? click on that app, and now it's going to run. Try to understand, I am trying to run the project onto my local machine. Okay, so see, that's why you'll be able to see here it is restarting with some stats, debugger is active, right? So all these things you should be able to see. So in my case it's running properly. Now where is it running? So it's actually running on this, but so this is the link actually I can say to access that project, this one, right? And this is nothing but port number. So 5000 is the default port number which it is going to make use of, and 127.0.0.1 is nothing but what? It's a local host, that is my machine, my laptop in my case. So right now it's running on my machine. Later on we will deploy it onto cloud also. Okay, so that you people will also be able to make use of. First of all, let me show you. See, what you need to do is either copy this particular link. Okay, so just select this, copy it, and if you want, you go and try to open this, try to open browser and try to hit that particular link. You should be able to see the user interface of the project, that is front end, and where we are going to pass the value. So in my case, I have opened Google Chrome, pasted the link, and I will hit enter. So I should be able to see, I should be able to see this particular thing, right? If you people remember, these are the things which were there in our input data. So let me just remind it once again. See, GRE score you need to enter here, TOEFL score, university rating, SOP, letter of recommendation, CGPA, right? So all these values you need to enter, and whether the research done or not, yes or no. So according to our input data, we have actually created a simple page. So here you will be able to see, select either yes or no. Okay. Now GRE score. So GRE score is generally out of 340 marks. So what I will do, suppose there is a student who has got 301 marks out of 340. TOEFL score is out of 120. Suppose someone has got 102 marks out of 120. University rating is out of 5. So I will give 4. Someone has got 4. Statement of purpose. Yesterday we have discussed. Suppose someone has got 3 marks in that. Letter of recommendation. Again, suppose 4. And CGPA, it is out of 10. Suppose someone has got CGPA as 8. And he has done some research. So let's see whether our model will be able to predict the chance of admission of that person or not. Let's see. So it should be able to tell me that this is the chance of the admission of that student. Okay, so it's showing us review page. Now see, if those are the things which I have entered, the chance of the admission is 6%. Okay, so this is what our model is. So try to understand what we have done in this case. First of all, we have done all the required data pre-processing with the help of Jupyter. And whenever we want to create the final model, we make use of some IDEs like PyCharm. Okay, this is what our project is. Or it's a simple application. Later on, I will tell you, I will try to discuss a complete end-to-end project also. Okay, so I thought that it will be good if you understand this particular flow, and then we will move to that particular project. Now, this is what we are done. Now, as I told you, I will show you how to deploy this particular application onto cloud. So for that, what you need to do is just go to command prompt. Now, in my case, I will be showing you deployment of this particular application onto one of the clouds which is free to use. So you might have heard about there are different clouds which are available, like Amazon Web Services is one of the clouds. You might have heard there is a cloud platform which is available, which is called as Pivotal. Then we have something called as Heroku Cloud also available. Then we have Google Cloud Platform available, right? So these are some of the clouds which you can make use of. Oracle Cloud is also there, and so on. So out of this, I am going to deploy this particular application onto Heroku Cloud. Okay, because for AWS you are going to require credit card or debit card. In this case, to create the account on Heroku, you are not going to require any card, and it is available. It is free for 2 years, and you can deploy at max 5 applications on that. Okay, and for AWS they are going to charge some money even. So that's why it's always better to go with Heroku, because it's free to use. Those who want to go with AWS, if they want steps, I will send. I have already mentioned the steps to deploy your application onto Google Cloud Platform also. Okay, so I will be using Heroku Cloud. Now, in my case, I already have an account for Heroku Cloud. So if someone is having some doubt that okay, how to create the account, don't worry about that. Again, in PDF file, you are going to get all the steps in detail. Okay, so don't worry about all those things. Just try to understand it. What's our approach and how actually we are trying to achieve the target. So see, first step is what? Suppose in our case now, this particular application is totally running because we are able to see this output, right? Now, wherever your app.py file is, you need to go inside that particular folder onto your local machine or wherever your project is. So in my case, my project is here in this folder. So what I will do is I will copy this path. See, what are we trying to do? We are now trying to deploy the application onto cloud, on Heroku Cloud. So I copied that path. Always remember, you should always be in such a folder where your app.py file resides. Okay. So I copied that path, cd, and paste that path and enter. Now I am inside that path. Now I will tell you what are the steps to deploy your application onto cloud. First step is you need to log into your Heroku account. I will again repeat, Heroku is a cloud. It's a cloud platform which is available. So you just need to type Heroku space login and press enter. It is going to take us to the browser. It is going to take us, it is going to ask us to log in. It will show us one login button. See, I will have to press enter button once again. And now it is going to take me to the browser and it is going to ask me, see, like this. So it's going to ask me to log in now. Now, why is it possible in my case? Because I already have a Heroku account. To create a Heroku account, it will just take 2 minutes. Okay, that's why I'm not going to show you all those steps. So you just need to refer that PDF file. Now see, here it is showing me logged in. I will go to this terminal, this command prompt once again. Now it is showing me that I am logged in as yogeshpm555@gmail.com. This is my personal email ID. Second step, once you are logged in successfully, second step is Heroku create. Suppose I want to give some name to my application. Suppose SKN 2009. This is the name I am trying to give to my application. So Heroku create, and whatever the name you want to give to your application, type that name here. Okay, so Heroku create and name, and then enter. If that name is available, it's okay. If not, it is going to prompt us that okay, it's not available. Now see, in my case, it is saying that it is done. Okay, that means SKN 2009. So yes, this is done. That is second step. Now the third step is Heroku actually makes use of something called as Git. You might be aware about Git repository. Git is like a repository. So Heroku Cloud actually makes use of Git repository to store all the project files. In real time also this is what happens. So it makes use of some pipeline. From your local server, from your local machine, all the files are moved to Heroku Git repository. And from there, then they will be pushed to the cloud. That's what I am trying to do here. So to initialize the Git repository, this is the command. Git space init and press enter. So it is saying that reinitialize existing Git repository. Okay, now that was the third step. Fourth step is if you want to check what is the status of Git, you just need to type Git status. It is not a compulsory command. Just type Git status. It's going to show you okay, there is nothing to commit. Right. Fifth step. Now whatever the files which are present in the current directory, that means in which directory? That means in this directory. Whatever the files which are present in my current directory, now I want to add all those files onto Git. That's why I am trying to fire this particular command, Git space add space dot. So what is this single dot? This single dot is nothing but it is showing you current directory. So you might be knowing about Linux commands, right? Single dot means current directory, dot dot means previous directory. So this single dot is for understanding that it's a current directory. So from current directory, I want to add everything to the Git repository. So just Git space add space dot and press enter. Okay. So if it is not showing me any error message, that means everything is okay. That was the fifth step. Now sixth step, Git space add space commit space -a. This is the command to commit whatever I have done. I hope you people understand what do you mean by commit. Okay. So Git space add space commit space -a. This is the command I am trying to type. After that, you need to type some string. Suppose I type hello in single quote or double quote. Okay. So Git space add space commit -a hello, and then press enter. Okay. I think I made some mistake. Let me check. Okay, so it should be git space commit space hyphen am. So git space add space commit space hyphen am space some string. So this command is for what? This command is for committing whatever he had done till now. So just press enter now. Okay, so what is happening? Let me check. Okay. Okay, actually it should be git space commit. So git space commit space add space hyphen a. Now press enter. Okay. So what it is showing? Okay. Paths add with hyphen am. So okay, let me change this. So the command is like this: git commit space add git commit space hyphen am. Then actually this it is not add, git space commit space hyphen am and then directly the string. Actually I have added a word add, that should not be there. Okay, so git space commit space hyphen am and then string, and then now see it has committed. So it is saying that nothing to commit, working tree is clean, that means everything is okay. Now the last command, as I told you what's going to happen. So let me just give you an overview here. See, all the files were present on our local machine, that is localhost. What we try to do, we try to put the necessary files onto git repository, right? Git repo we are using, and now from this git repository we are going to push that particular files onto cloud, so that all the users in real world will be able to make use of my application. This is what, and this whole thing is actually called as pipeline. This whole thing is actually called as pipeline. So in case of Heroku, actually we make use of a pipeline concept, right? And similar kind of thing you can even follow in case of other clouds also, like AWS or Google Cloud Platform or Pivotal or Microsoft Azure, right? So there are different cloud platforms available. Now last command to push your application. So the last command is git push Heroku master. Now whatever I have done till now, if everything is okay, then only it is going to deploy my application onto cloud. So git space push space Heroku space master, git push Heroku master. This is the last command. So I think it is 7th command. So there are only 6 to 7 commands. Now let me press enter and let's see now. Okay, so now see, it is showing me that no such app as skn123. So what is the name I have given? I did not give skn123. I have given the name as skn 2009. skn123 I have given when I tried, when I actually had tried previous application. So if you want to see what was the name we have given earlier, so it was skn 2009, right? skn123 is actually the name which I have given yesterday before your session. I just tried to deploy that. So see, this is the name. That means this cloud is not able to detect our application. So what I will do is, there is one command to tell the cloud that okay, that is not my application, that is not my current application which I am trying to deploy, my application name is something different. So we just need to tell it. So for that the command is, if you get this kind of error, you just need to enter this command, Heroku git colon remote. Here we use hyphen a and the name of your application. So my application name is skn 2009. Let me see. So it should set the repository to that one. So set git remote to this skn 2009 now. Now I will again try to push onto the cloud with the same command, git push Heroku master. Let me see. Now it has started deploying my application onto cloud, right? So within 1 minute it is going to deploy it. It will give us a link. So once we get the link, we will try it out whether it is working or not, and I will share that link with you people, so that you people will also be able to make use of that particular application onto your machine. Let's see. Till now it has detected the Python application and all those things. As a web application it has detected. So whatever we are using, Flask, some of you might be knowing that Flask is a framework. It's like a package available in Python. So that's why we actually tried to make use of Python here, because it makes all the things very easy. So it is saying all those things are successfully installed, and it is proc file. It is declaring it has identified that particular application as a web application. So it is saying done. Okay. Now let me highlight this particular thing. This one. this is the link of our application. Yet we are not done yet actually. It should complete and finally it should show us the prompt. So now yes, now we are done. So here, whatever I was trying to show you, this particular link. So what I will do is now I will copy this one and I will try to hit that particular link from the browser. So let me go here, mark and select this particular link. See, skn2009.herokuapp.com, right? Select that, go here and copy it. Now let me open browser and let me open new tab and let me see. Now it should show me the same user interface. See, this is what you can say that now your application is successfully deployed onto cloud. Now, if you people want to try, what I will do is I will send the same link. I will copy and paste the same link in the chat box, and you people also can click on that link. Just click on that and let me know whether you are able to run the application or not. Okay, so please, if someone is not able to see this kind of a thing, and if you are not able to run, let me know. If you people are able to run that by clicking on that link, just say yes or no, so that I will move forward. For example, and it should work now. It should work in everyone's case. Just try to click on that. All the
Yes, sir.
participants.
It is
Okay.
working.
Yeah, thank you, madam. So it should give the output also, right? The exactly the same way whatever we have actually done earlier. Yeah. Thank you, Gaurav sir. So I hope it's working. 3 to 4 people have tried it out. Okay, so this is how you can deploy your application onto cloud. So try to understand what we have done. First of all, we tried to ingest the data. First of all, we tried to fetch the data from the source. Our source was CSV file. Once that is done, after that, we have tried to pre-process that data, because I already told you, always remember, for almost all the machine learning algorithms, always remember this point, that your data should always be in numerical format. And as I told you yesterday, that data should have a normal distribution, right? A bell-shaped curve. So we have already made sure that our data should be following all those things. So for that, for making sure all those things, we have actually tried to do all those things with the help of Jupyter. Right, now let me go and try to discuss this particular code. See, what are all these files now? So you can even if it is not running on local machine, you can stop it. I just stopped it. Okay, so what are all these files now? So see, this app.py is the main file where your logic is written. So you are able to see this particular code. So this is what our main logic is. Okay, now if you people remember, with the help of Jupyter, we created one file that is called as finalize_model.pickle. So this is the file actually which we got after training the model. So where we have actually done the training is already done. You already have a pickle file. So to just make the things easy, just assume that pickle file is like a .executable file. So whatever the pickle file we had created in case of Jupyter, same pickle file I am just trying to paste in the folder, in this folder. Okay, so this is what we created yesterday and I'm just trying to make use of that. So once the training is done, you need to create a pickle file or a .sav file, and you can make use of that .sav file or pickle file in any project or any module. Okay, proc file is actually a procedural file. What that proc file contains is, whenever you need to deploy your model onto cloud, okay, so you need to have a proc file. So it is with the help of this is the code which we have written in the proc file. What it is saying? It is saying that it's a web application and it is going to make use of a web server called a JUnity. Okay, and it's a web application. So just to detect what type of application you are trying to develop or deploy, so this proc file is going to help the cloud platform. This requirement.txt file is the file in which what we do is we try to mention the names of all the packages which we require for that particular project. So, and this is all these are standard files. Okay, requirement.txt, proc file, all both of them, they are standard files. So whatever the packages you require for your project, we try to mention those packages in requirement.txt. Okay. And what is this templates folder? So in templates folder, we have base.html, index.html, and result.html. So because of this index.html, what has happened? This is the page which is responsible with the help of which actually you are able to see the first user interface where we have entered all the values. So that code, that HTML code is here. This is a simple HTML code which we have written to create that page. Result.html page is the page which actually shows you the result. That is nothing but what? That is the result which you got, this one. Okay, this result you are able to see because of this result.html page. So again, you will be able to see that it's a HTML code. So we write down all those HTML files inside templates folder, and inside static folder, what is there? There is something called as CSS. So CSS is what? Cascading style sheet. So whenever we want to develop some user interface, you can make use of all these CSS files. You can even make use of all the ready-made CSS files also. It's a cascading style sheet. Maybe you might be knowing about it, right? But if you ask me, is it the work of a data scientist or machine learning developer? Absolutely not. Okay, so you don't have to worry about that. Data analyst or data scientist, they are not going to do all these kind of things, right? So there will be a separate person who is going to take care for all these things, right? So I hope you understood static, templates. Then there is one more file that is called as .gitignore. So .gitignore is the file actually. Here you are able to see this one. So it will be created. You will see in our case, if I show you the folder here, so see this .git file is there, right? So if you go inside this, you'll be able to see all these files which are automatically created when you actually try to run this particular application. And this .idea folder is going to have all these files. So .idea folder will be having all the files and folders which should be ignored, right? So here, which file should be ignored, right? So which file should be ignored? The files which are present inside .idea folder. So that's why we actually use this particular name. Again, it's a standard name, and this app.py is our main file. Now let me go through this particular code fast. Okay, what is it doing? So see, in our case, our project is having two routes. So you can check. The first route is this one. This is nothing but what? This is the route when which is going to give you the first page, right, where you are going to enter the values. That is one thing. Another route is going to be where you will see the result. Okay, so which is called as /predict. This is the another route. So our project is actually divided into two routes, the starting one and the prediction one. Okay, now with the help of Python, how we have written? So we are using a framework which is called as Flask. What will happen because of this Flask framework? Because of this Flask framework, you will be able to create a real-time application. How? See how we are starting. Let me show you the starting point of this application. See, this is the starting point of application. If __ name equal to __ main ___. Again, what do you mean by two underscores? It means it's private. All those attributes, all those variables, keywords are private. So what do you mean by this? The meaning of this one is, if you see a method with the name main, you need to start from there. Okay, so what are we doing inside this? If you see this kind of a name, what are we doing? App.run. So app.run, where it is running, it is going to run. In our case, it ran on port number 5000. You can run it on another port number also, but by default, I told you port number is 5000 and by default on localhost. So if I just uncomment this line, it will show you port number 8001 instead of port number 5000 like this. Okay, so this is the starting point of the application. From here it is going to start. From there it is going to go to this particular app method. Now what do we have defined in app method? Now let me show you. See this one, how we have defined app method. From there, pointer is going to come to here, app we have declared as an object of Flask method. What is Flask? Flask is a framework. How are we able to make use of this Flask framework? Because we imported from Flask. You need to install this package actually with the help of pip install command. From Flask, import Flask. We have done this one. That's why we are able to run this particular method here. So what is this? We are actually trying to initialize a Flask application. Okay. So what are we doing? We are creating an app method here, app object here. So with the help of that, we are creating two routes. So @app, So after that line, it is going to go to this one. And because of this, it is going to get. Get method is what? Get method is to get the input from the users, which is going to display as the home page. And on home page, what it showed? It showed us this particular thing. So this page you are able to get because of this particular route. Get method is the method which is going to be used to get the values from the user. And what is this @cross origin? @cross origin is actually used. For example, suppose now see, as I have developed, so we are done with this particular application. So my application is on one server in India, right? But there is a person in California who wants to make use of this particular application, right? So just to allow a cross platform access for this person for my application, so that will be taken care by this cross_origin. That's why we use this particular method here. Okay, @cross_origin. And again, from where we are actually trying to import it, from flask_cors, we are importing cors and cross_origin. That's the use of cross_origin, to allow the access from cross platforms, different platforms. Okay, and now define home page. What are we doing? So here we are just calling this HTML page, index.html, so that you will be able to see the home page. Once that is done, now what are we doing? Now after that, we are just trying to take the values from the user. So see, we are trying to take GRE score, TOEFL score, university rating, statement of purpose, letter of recommendation, CGPA, and whether the research is done or not. Okay, so you can see these are the request of type request.form, because we are using HTML forms to get the input from the user. Okay, once that is done, that means you will be having all the values, right? Now file name is equal to finalize_model.pickle. What is this? This is the model which we created yesterday. And what are we doing after that? I am just trying to load that model here in RB means what? Read and binary mode. And what do you mean by read and binary mode? Binary mode means executable mode, right? So I am just trying to open that particular file in this mode. After that, what? So loaded_model, we are passing all the values which user has given us, GRE score, TOEFL score, university rating, and all those values we are passing as an input to this particular model. And then it is going to print us, because model is already run, already trained, then it is going to give us the final prediction which is stored in this particular variable, and we are just trying to print it. Okay, so that's it. It is going to display it onto result.html page, and that is nothing but this particular page, right? So this is the flow of this application, a simple application with the help of linear regression, right? Now if you people are having any doubt for this one, any question, because I know that one needs to have some hands-on practice also to understand each and everything out of this. Definitely, that's why I already told you that I will be sharing the documents, because within this kind of stipulated time, we are not able to, obviously we are not able to complete each and everything in that manner. But yeah, still, if someone is having some question, definitely I will try to answer that. Anyone, any question in this? Any doubt?
Sir, you said this cross origin means California is a different class, cross platform. Means what? I don't understand.
Means that's a different server, and the project in my project is actually stored on a different server or network, I can say.
Okay.
So even though my project is in different network, but the person who is trying to access my application from some another network, he should be able to access that. That's what actually taken care of by this cross_origin.
Okay, sir.
Because we don't know, right? Client can be from any network, right? So in that case, we need to use cross_origin, and which we are able to make use of with the help of this flask_cors.
Okay, sir.
Right. Okay. Any other question, guys? Anyone? If anyone is having any doubt, you can ask the question in the chat box. Other people, I think you will not be able to unmute yourself. If you have any doubt, you can ask in the chat box. I hope it's clear. Okay, maybe you try it out later on once you get all the files. Madam, do we have 10-15 minutes?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, so what I will do, I will now try to discuss about the end-to-end project which I tried to talk about at the start. Okay, in which, so in this case, if you see, we have used only one algorithm, that is linear regression. But let me tell you, in real time, we seldomly use linear regression actually, because there are far better algorithms as compared to linear regression. There is something called as XGBoost, there is something called as Neobase, there is something called as KNN, decision tree. Far better algorithms are available. Okay, so, and let me tell you one more point. In our case, we people also, when we develop some project related to data science or machine learning, we are never dependent on only one algorithm. We try to make use of at least 6 to 7 algorithms in one project, and whatever the algorithm which gives us the best model, that algorithm actually that particular model actually we choose to deploy. This is what happens in real time. Okay, so it's not like that we will be using only one algorithm and then we will try to give it to the client. No, we will try to play with the data first, try to understand data carefully, then try to apply 6 to 7 algorithms on that data, get the problem, get the solution according to the problem statement, and whatever the model which is giving us the highest accuracy, best accuracy, that model is going to be our final model, right? So this is actually we do. And how to decide which model is the best? So there is one concept that is called as ROC AOC curve, receiver operator characteristic and area under the curve. So I'm just trying to talk about this particular thing, ROC AUC score. Okay, so receiver operator characteristic, area under the curve. So for whatever the model, this high value is higher. Suppose the model which I have developed with the help of Naive-Bayes algorithm, if that model is having the ROC AUC score as 90, another model which I developed with the help of XGBoost algorithm, right, if it is having accuracy as 92, some with linear regression is having the accuracy as 78, so I will go with this one. Okay, this is what we do. And always remember, we actually try to make use of unsupervised learning approach first and then supervised learning. So let me tell you higher what you can say, a high level view of the process. Once you get the data from the client for creating the model, for training the model, that data we are going to pass it to some clustering algorithm. So you might be knowing there are different clustering algorithms available. For example, the famous one is K-means, you might be knowing about for sure, but there are other algorithms also like DBSCAN. DBSCAN is also one of the best clustering algorithm. So either you use K-means or DBSCAN, density based spatial clustering application with noise. That is both of them, they are used for clustering. So you use any one of them. So the data which we get, we try to pass that particular data to clustering algorithm. So that clustering algorithm is going to divide our data. Suppose it divides our data into 3 clusters. Okay, and now on these 3 clusters, we are going to apply different algorithms for prediction. So in our case, we can apply linear regression, decision tree, Naive-Bayes, and so on. So linear regression, decision tree, and Naive-Bayes, and so on. And similarly here also. And for this one, suppose decision tree has given me the best accuracy, so it is going to be the model 1. For this one, suppose Naive-Bayes has given me the best accuracy, and for third one also Naive-Bayes has given me the best accuracy. So these 3 models we are going to give it to client. This is what the higher level view of what we do in project development. In short, I am just trying to tell you. Obviously, this step is going to require time, this step is going to require time, and this one also. So all the things like pre-processing and all those things and statistics you are going to require, hypothesis and all those things, definitely they are going to come into picture, right? So what I will do is I will just try to show you another project which is a complete end-to-end project. Again, those people who are interested, if you want, yes, Devanand Mishram, I have idea about PCA algorithm. PCA is a principal component analysis. So what question do you have about PCA, Mr. Devanand Mishram? Can you just type it out? PCA. PCA is a algorithm which makes use of supervised learning approach. And let me tell you, PCA actually never gives you final model. PCA is actually used as a pre-processing step. How to use PCA in hardware? So you can actually make use of PCA in hardware also. You just need to suppose if you are using Python kind of a language, right? If you are using Python kind of a language, so definitely you can go and you can integrate it with hardware also. Your application you can integrate with hardware. You have different chips available. So you might be knowing about Jetson Nano, Google Coral. So create the application, create the .pickle file, and you can directly make use of that .pickle file into Google Coral or what you can say Jetson Nano kind of hardware. Is it clear, Devanand Mishra? Am I able to clear your doubt? PCA, about PCA you are asking. Okay, so how we handle the problem of imbalanced dataset in the best optimized manner? So another question from Mr. Devanand Hapse, Devendra Hapse. So he is asking that how we handle the problem of imbalanced dataset in best optimized manner. Okay, so how we handle it? As I told you, we try to describe the data. We try to see how the data is distributed. If it is not normally distributed, what we try to do is, so you might be knowing about some methods to know how you can check about outlier values, right? So there are there is one plot that is called as box and whisker plot, which you can plot in Python with the help of Seaborn package. Okay, so box and whisker plot is going to tell you, okay, if there are outlier values or not. Even you can go and you can plot distribution plots. So if your data is distributed like this, so it is a skewed data, imbalanced data. Or if your data is distributed maybe like this, if it is distributed, again it's imbalanced data. So what we do, Mr. Devendra Hapse, what we do is we try to ignore these higher values. We try to ignore 2% of higher data or maybe 5% of higher data. Okay, so how we try to achieve that? How we try to achieve? So here we have some techniques available in Python, for example, which we call it as quartile. So you might be knowing about percentile and quartile, right? So we make use of the techniques which are called as quartile or percentile. So I hope it's clear. Yes, am I audible, all of you?
Yes sir, yes sir.
Yeah.
Yes sir.
So I think
अब भी आवाज नहीं आ रही थी.
Okay, yeah. So is it clear, Mr. Devendra Hapse? We what we do is we try to ignore 2% of data or 5% of data. It depends on what type of a problem you are actually trying to solve. So that's what I was trying to tell you. We just try to check first of all how our data is actually distributed. If it is not normally distributed, then we try to ignore those skews. See, we actually try to ignore, suppose this particular part, right? If it is like this, it is like this, so we try to ignore this one. This is called as left skewed data, right? If you are having this one, it is called as right skewed data. So we try to ignore these values. Again, it all depends how much you can ignore. It all depends on your data set and the problem statement, right? So is it clear? Is it making sense? Okay, so see, obviously I require some time for all these things, because generally I started all these things only, and then only we go and we try to discuss the project. But I was just expecting that you people are aware about some of the basic things. Okay, I think someone has asked one more question. Can you please just post it once again, because I lost in between? Someone has asked some question. I was not able to read that. Someone is having some question. Okay, maybe. Okay, anyone is having any question, you can post it once again, no problem. Let me directly move and show you the project which I was trying to talk about. See, and remember, say for understanding all this thing, definitely hands-on is really very, very important. So believe me, once if you try to do it, then only you will be able to understand all this. Okay, Gaurav Jumnake sir, your question is, what is the role of GPU? So GPU is a graphics processing unit. So generally, if you talk about projects which come under deep learning, okay, so for high processing power, we make use of GPU. So you might have heard about Keras, you might have heard about PyTorch library, TensorFlow library. So why? Because in that case, we need, most of the times you will see that we deal with image data and video data. Right? So obviously you are going to require high processing power. So many times you will notice that some of the projects in deep learning which we will do, or which in future if you might do, you will see that they will not be compatible with the hardware which is available on your machine. So you need to have more power. Graphical processing unit is used for that one. Is it making sense, Gaurav sir? So generally in deep learning, you will come across. There are some cloud platforms actually, they provide this, but just you need to pay some money. Okay. Okay. Now, maybe I will take some 5 minutes. I will directly show you the execution of this project. See, and what I will expect is, see, this is a real-time project. You will be able to see a lot of folders and files here. But if you people are interested, you can try it out. See, because I have given a documentation of this project also. Go here, open this PDF called as problem statement. You will be able to see all the details about this project in this PDF. Because of the limitation of time, I am telling you this one. Okay, because I know that some people generally they have that urge to learn, or maybe some of you might be trying to find out some projects so that you will be able to work on that and then develop your or solve your own problems also with the help of machine learning. See, the problem statement is this one: to build a classification methodology to predict type of thyroid based on the given training data. Now see, in this case we have a lot of data. Now it's not like that we have only one file. So our problem statement is, if some patient comes, we need to detect whether he is affected by thyroid or not. So you can apply this kind of a technique to any data set. For example, go for current situation, COVID-19. If you have some data about that, train your model and try to have a prediction, try to have a classification, classify the patients, whether they are affected by COVID-19 or not. So I am talking about this one because I got this data. Let me show you the data set. See, in this case, there is not only one file. The data set is huge. So the data set is available in this one, training underscore batch underscore files. Open this. So this is what my data set is. All these files. Let me open one file. Suppose this one. So if I open this file, you will be able to see some data sets, some observations, some rows here and some columns here. So in this case, if you check, this is the data which is related to healthcare domain, right? As you are talking about thyroid. So you see age of the person, sex of the person, on thyroxine, query on thyroxine, and so on. So see, and one of the most important column is nothing but TSH, which is called as thyroid stimulating hormone, because this is the hormone which is responsible for thyroid, right? Some of you might be knowing about it. Okay, so just try to see how many numbers. just a minute. Just it will take 5 minutes. I will directly run it. Just try to understand. Here I will directly go to final column. See, here you just need to detect, you need to train your model in such a way that it is going to help you to detect whether a patient is negative or having compensated hypothyroid, right? So there are 4 classes actually: primary hypothyroid, compensated hypothyroid, negative patient, and one more is there. So I think three classes we have in this case. So our target is to train a model with the help of, see, in only one folder I have these many number of files. So these many number of files you have, and only inside one file you have near about 800, near about 5,000, 6,000 rows. So just imagine 5,000, 6,000 into all this. So you have those many number of data sets. Okay, so what this project is doing is, let me go and directly run it, open it in PyCharm. Exactly same step I am going to follow, which I have shown you earlier. Okay, so here PyCharm is highlighting, just go here. So I will try to open it in this window. Okay, so your final output will be the number of the patient and whether he is affected by thyroid or not. Okay, so see, obviously they are not going to show us the name of the person because it's a personal information, right? No one can reveal that. So let me show you final output. Let me run it, go here. Obviously it will run on my local machine first. Here also it is going to show me a link, so we will have to wait for some time, because in this case as data set is more, so it will take more time as compared to previous one. But yeah, it will show us one link. So I just want to show you how that GUI looks like and how we provide all these input files at once. So it's not like that there is only one CSV file. Now there are a lot of CSV files at a time, and this is what actually happens in real time. So generally when we develop this project, so if you ask me how much time we required for this one, so generally if you see, if it's a MNC, they will take 5 to 6 months. If it's a startup, maybe they will develop it in 7 to 8 days only, in a week only. It all depends, because that's just a business aspect actually. Okay, so it is still running. Let that particular link come, let it show us the link. So if you are able to see here, it is showing me discovering binary model. So yes, it is actually running in the background. We will have to wait till it shows us the link here. It will go in the debugging mode and then it will show us the link. Till then, if anyone is having any question about the previous project, or maybe in general if you have any doubt, you can post the question in the chat box. Okay, because once I think we are already running out of time. Once it is running, once I show you the output, then I think we'll have to stop. Okay, close this, close this. Yes, please, anyone is having any doubt, please, you can ask. Now see, it is showing me the link. So why it has taken this much of time? Because data set, size of the data set was more. So what will happen now? See here, I am going to get all these files from the client. So whatever the training files which you are able to see, these are the files from which we have trained the model. Okay, so everything we have done, data pre-processing, checking the file names and all those things, creating the database. Now what client is doing after that? Client is sending us some file for prediction. So for these files, for this data set, for these patients, actually we need to classify them, or we need to predict they are affected by which type of a thyroid. They are positive, negative, or they are affected by some type of a thyroid or not. So this is the data which client has given us for prediction, right? What will happen? You are going to see the output in this folder, prediction_output_file. So just try to understand what will happen once I run the project. It is going to give us the output in one CSV file. If you see, this CSV file is created yesterday. So once I come here and I will show you, this will be 30th September after I run the project, because my final output will be like this. Let me show you the final output, which looks like this. This is the file which we are going to send to the client. See, first patient is affected by primary hypothyroid. Second patient, primary hypothyroid. 7th patient is negative. 18th patient is compensated hypothyroid, negative, and so on. So this is the final output you are going to get for the data which client has sent us for prediction. Okay, try to understand. Okay, see, this is 29 September. Now what I will do, I will click on that link. I will click on this link. It will take me to the user interface. Now user interface is like this. You will see that. Okay, see, this is the user interface. Now once I click on this default file predict, what is going to happen is it is going to fetch all the files which client has sent us for which we want to predict. So once I click on this, it will run and it will prepare the output file, new output file with today's date and current time. I will show you that. Okay, this is what this project is. The only difference between this project and earlier is, in this one the data size is high. In this project we have used 4 algorithms. One is clustering algorithm, that is k-means we have used. Another one we have used is XGBoost. Then we have used random forest and naive Bayes. So 4 algorithms we have used, and it has given us the best models, right? But still, those people who are interested, refer the PDF document. If you are interested to understand each and everything from this project, refer the PDF document. if you have doubt after this one also, you can ask me, no problem. Okay, so see, it is running, it is trying to fetch all that data and it is predicting. See what it is saying, prediction file is created. Where is it created? So it is saying that prediction file is created at prediction_output predictions.csv. So I will take you to that particular path. See, prediction_output file, I am already inside that folder. Now sorry, now can you notice this? Earlier it was 29 September, now it is 30th September, and see, 29 minutes past 12, and that is the time. So that means this file is created just now. If I open this particular file, you will be able to see that this is the final output. So this particular project is going to give the output. See, here I have taken the output in CSV file. You can go and you can display it on some web page also, on some website also, or store it in some database also, whatever you want as per the requirement of the client. Okay, so here you see, 0th patient is primary hypothyroid, affected by primary hypothyroid, 6th patient is negative, and so on. So this is what this project is actually doing. Okay, but yes, I will require some time to explain each and everything to you. Okay, but maybe those people who want to try, definitely I will share all these things. Don't worry about that. Yes, madam, I think we are already running out of time, so let me know. And if anyone,
Sir, no, it is really very informative and technological session. So we are not bored at all.
okay, sure.
Yes, students, is there any question?
Yes, if anyone is having any doubt. See, I know that I cannot start from all those basics and all those things, right? But yes, I just tried to give you an idea about.
Yes, these all are the PhD students and the ME students, so they
That's
are
why.
already aware about the basics of the Python and all. So it's good start. Yes, student, is there any question? And I have shared the attendance link in the chat box. Please refer that link. Okay, sir.
Okay.
You are done, sir?
Yes, madam. I think.
If students, if you don't have any questions, we will conclude, right? So, sir, on behalf of SKNCOE, I would like to thank you. Thanks a lot to you for such a nice technical session, and for being with us as a resource person and sharing your valuable time with our students and the faculties. It is really very technological and knowledgeable session, and it's value addition for everyone which are here, right? And hoping the same kind of association in future. Thank you again, Yogesh sir, for your contribution and guidance.
Thank you, madam. Thank you all of you.
Thanks a lot, sir. So we'll stop here, sir.
Yes, madam. Sure.
Students, refer this link for the attendance. I will not share this link on your WhatsApp group. So after 5 minutes, I will stop the responses also. So, sir, thanks.
Yes, madam.
Yes, you can enter.
Yes.